I'm about to tell you a real-life survival story so unbelievable you'd think it's fiction, except it's all true. It's the story of Juliane Köpke, the teenage girl who fell from the sky and survived alone in the Amazon jungle. Before we dive into this extraordinary tale, please subscribe to our channel and turn on all notifications so you never miss our latest uploads. It was December 24th, 1971, Christmas Eve. The setting? Peru. Juliane Köpke, just 17 years old, was flying with her mother Maria from Lima to Pucallpa on Lanza Flight 508. They were headed to meet Juliane's father, a biologist working at a research station deep in the Amazon rainforest. The flight should have been routine, short, just about an hour long. Lanza, a small Peruvian airline, had a questionable safety record, but like many families trying to get home for the holidays, they booked what was available. As they boarded the plane that day, the atmosphere was festive. Passengers wore Christmas hats, families carried gifts, people smiled and wished each other Feliz Navidad. For Juliane, it was both exciting and familiar. She had taken this flight before. She was comfortable in the air. She sat beside her mother in row 19. The plane had been delayed earlier in the day, and now dark clouds loomed in the sky. But no one could have predicted what was coming. About halfway through the flight, the weather took a terrifying turn. The aircraft flew into a massive thunderstorm. Thick storm clouds swallowed the plane, and turbulence rocked the cabin like a ship on violent seas. Lightning cracked through the sky. Rain hammered against the windows. Passengers gasped and gripped their armrests. The overhead luggage compartments popped open and bags spilled out onto the aisle. Then it happened. A bolt of lightning struck the right wing. Flames erupted, panic surged through the cabin. Juliane's last memory inside the plane is of her mother turning to her and saying, "This is the end. It's all over." The aircraft broke apart mid-air, exploding at 10,000 feet. Juliane, still strapped into her seat, was ejected from the fuselage. She fell, alone, from nearly 2 miles above the earth. But somehow, impossibly, the jungle canopy cushioned her fall. Scientists later theorized that the row of seats she was strapped into acted like a parachute, spinning and gliding just enough to slow her descent. The dense foliage of the Amazon likely further softened her impact. When she hit the forest floor, she was unconscious. Hours passed. When Juliane finally woke up, she was still strapped into her seat, which had landed upright. Her first sensation? Pain. Intense, radiating pain. She had a broken collarbone, a deep gash on her leg, a swollen right eye, and a concussion. Her glasses were gone. One of her shoes was missing. She was wearing only a sleeveless summer dress. She was injured, alone, and stranded in one of the most dangerous places on Earth, the Peruvian Amazon. A place teeming with venomous snakes like the fer-de-lance, stealthy predators like jaguars, and deadly insects such as bullet ants, whose sting causes hours of excruciating pain. Hidden among the leaves are poisonous frogs like the Philobates bicolor and the Ranitomea ventrimaculata, whose skin secretes potent toxins once used by indigenous tribes for hunting darts. Even the air buzzes with parasites and disease-carrying insects. The forest floor is a maze of sharp thorns, unstable ground, and endless threats. And Juliane was walking through it with nothing but one sandal and a torn summer dress. The jungle was deafening. Insects screamed, birds screeched. The buzzing of flies never stopped. The air was thick, humid, and alive with danger. Poisonous snakes, camouflage spiders, sharp thorns, and predators lurking behind the greenery. Juliane called out for her mother, over and over. No answer. She wandered the crash site, hoping to find other survivors, but all she found were pieces of the plane and debris scattered amongst the trees. The jungle had swallowed the wreckage whole. Seats dangled from trees, suitcases were torn open. But there were no voices, no movement, no signs of life. Her survival instincts kicked in. Julian wasn't just any teenager. She had grown up in Peru, the daughter of German zoologists. Her parents had raised her in the rainforest. She knew the sounds, the smells, the dangers. She wasn't helpless. Her father had taught her the first rule: find water. Streams led to rivers, and rivers led to people. So that's what she did. Injured and disoriented, she began to walk. She followed a trickling stream through vines, across sharp roots, beneath hanging branches. She moved slowly and carefully. With every step, pain surged through her collarbone and her open wounds. She had nothing but her one sandal, a small bag of candy, and sheer determination. For days, she wandered. She drank water straight from streams, ate nothing, swatted away insects that feasted on her wounds. Leeches attached themselves to her legs. Flies buzzed constantly in her ears. At night, she curled up beneath trees, covering herself with damp leaves to keep warm. Rain poured down. Mosquitoes attacked her relentlessly. She had no knife, no flashlight, and no shoes. Her wounds began to fester. Maggots grew inside the open gash on her arm. Her skin was burned from the sun. Her body was weak from hunger and exhaustion. But she kept walking. Each day was a battle. She hallucinated. She heard her mother's voice calling. She felt herself drifting into dreams whilst walking, but she didn't stop. She couldn't stop. On the fourth day, she heard something, buzzing. A plane. She stumbled into a small clearing and looked up, screaming, waving her arms. But the pilot didn't see her. The plane passed. Hope faded, but she didn't stop. More days passed. Each step was slower, harder. Her energy was almost gone. Her wounds were getting worse. Her dress was torn. Her one shoe had long since fallen apart. Then, on the 9th day, just as she felt she couldn't take another step, she saw something. A small boat, parked along a riverbank. She thought she was hallucinating. She walked closer. It was real. Beside it, a small shelter, abandoned but real. Inside the shelter, she found a can of gasoline. Most people would have ignored it, but Julian remembered something her father taught her. Gas can kill maggots. She poured a little into her infected wounds. The pain was excruciating, but the maggots began to wriggle out. She picked them out one by one. She lay in the shelter, weak and fading, hoping somebody would return for the boat. Hours passed. Then, a sound. Voices. 3 Peruvian lumber workers emerged from the jungle. They couldn't believe what they saw. A filthy, wounded, half-dead teenage girl stumbling from their shelter. They treated her wounds, gave her food, then took her downriver to the nearest town. From there, she was airlifted to a hospital. Julian Kupke had survived 11 days alone in the Amazon rainforest after falling from the sky. Out of 92 passengers on Lanza Flight 508, she was the only survivor. Later, rescue workers returned to the crash site. They recovered the bodies of many passengers, including Julian's mother, Maria, who had initially survived the crash but died days later from her injuries. Julian went on to become a biologist like her parents. She earned a PhD, returned to Peru, and worked in mammalogy, specializing in bats. She wrote a book about her experience titled When I Fell from the Sky, and her story inspired documentaries and dramatized films, including Werner Herzog's Wings of Hope, a film that retraced her entire journey with her. But Julian rarely spoke publicly about what happened. She didn't consider herself a hero, just someone who did what she had to do. A teenage girl falling from the sky and surviving the impossible. Thanks for watching. If this story moved you, please subscribe and stay tuned. We have more real-life survival stories coming your way soon.